we entrust all this authority to him, and in the end he makes campaign promises that he doesn't keep. Yeah. So, a very interesting comment by the Gemara, just because it happens to revolve around some of the characters that are currently in Parashat Shavua, but it makes an interesting point that I wanted to make. This is not punctuated, it's in Aramaic, or half of it is. So with your permission, I'll read it. We're in Masechet Ta'anit, this is on page 9a. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Matar b'shvil yachid, parnasa b'shvil Rabbi. Typical agadic or midrashic kind of comment to make. Matar, one of the Hebrew words for rain, is capable of coming for the individual. When it comes to parnasa, that tends to be more of a collective concept or a collective effort. Matar b'shvil yachid, how do we know that rain has to do with individuals' merits, or that through the merits of the individual the rains can come? Dichtiv, as it's written, Yiftach Hashem lecha et otzaro hatov. This is the very beginning of Parashat Kitavo, before the long list of punishments and the Tochacha. The pasuk literally means Yiftach Hashem lecha et otzaro hatov. What is it? Yiftach Hashem lecha et otzaro hatov. God should open for you in the singular, second person singular. Et otzaro hatov. God should open His great treasure for you individually, you the individual. Latet metaratzecha berito, to give the rains of your land at their time. Parnasa b'shvil rabim. How do we know that the parnasa is a public issue, or it has to do with the merits of the public? Dichtiv, as it says in Sefer Shemot, Hineni mamtir lachem lechem min hashamayim. This is the promise of the man. So by matar it says lecha, and by lechem it says lachem. Right, except that here instead of giving you rain, it's raining bread. Right. So, or it's raining men.
Comes to mind right away.
Naturally.
Sorry.
Never understood the inspiration for that song. Something must have. I dream about animals. She has her thing. I don't know. So. So because the parnasa, the basic sustenance of the nation, had to do with the man. It came as a matter of a public need. The public was taken care of. Or you could say that if the parnasa is difficult, it's not always an individual issue. Sometimes it has to do with the way people conduct themselves, which goes back up to what we're saying over here in terms of ona'ah. If society is righteous and virtuous and people are careful about their transactions, everybody's parnasa is blessed. Metiveh. So the Gemara challenges this concept. Metiveh always introduces a source, a source from Torah Sheba'al Peh, usually Braita. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, said, Shelosha parnasim tovim amdu lahem leYisrael. There were three great providers that stood for the Jewish nation. Elohen, who are they? The Sephardim read that as a question, by the way. The Ashkenazim sometimes read that as with a colon. So Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. All three of them are called Parnasim Tovim. They provided for the Jewish nation. V'shalosh matanot tovot nitenu al yadam. And three great gifts were given to us by them or through them. Ve'eluhen, and what are they? Be'er, Va'anan, Uman. Each one of them made some great contribution to the Jewish nation and to its sustenance. Not just prophecy, not just maybe it's by virtue of their righteousness, but each one of them contributed something to the Jewish nation in the form that was even physically manifest in the form of parnasa. How do we know? Be'er bizchut Miriam. So this well of water, the accessibility of drinking water, was always thanks to Miriam. Amud Anan was the pillar of the cloud that protected the nation from attack and straightened out the irregularities in the earth. Was a function of Aharon and his merit. And Man came in the merit of Moshe. Meta Miriam, as soon as Miriam passed away, Nistalecha Be'er, once Miriam passed away, we know that all of a sudden our access to water was diminished. How do we know? Easy, there's a pasuk that says so. What does the pasuk say?
Sorry, can I ask us probably a very stupid question, but it's not about the meaning, it's just about the form.
There are no stupid questions. Or as you say, a stupid question is the one that you don't ask.
Okay. why do we say Moshe ve'Aaron u'Miriam, and then we say like we did put the other the reverse order to say what they wrote? I thought it was supposed to be a logical like. This is Gemara, or I don't know. I mean, what?
You're such an engineer.
No,
No, I don't know.
I was actually
For me,
thinking the
this
same
is
thing.
supposed to be something very logical,
it's an
right?
excellent question. Very
And
often,
I would have presented it by like I don't
A,
know.
B, C, 1,
Yeah.
2, 3. It's
Sorry,
right. Keep it consistent. No, it's an excellent question. Normally, you'll find that the Ben Ish Chai, some of the more Kabbalistically inclined commentators will point that out. You have Mishnayot that do that. You have like references to different sorts of Masechet Ketubot. Yes, it repeats like 4 times. The status of or the ketubah of a woman, of a shifcha or a gioret or a shvuya, and then it reverses the order when it tells you what the deal is. So normally we would learn such a thing. It's like a very subtle concept that can have a lot of great meaning to it. It's not what I intended to get into now specifically.
No, I know. That's why I
But
apologize.
it's fine. It's just that
It's just because now we're doing text, so
right. So Miriam, Aharon, Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam in that order might be reference to their influence in the nation. Moshe being the prophet of all prophets, Aharon being the Kohen Gadol, and Miriam, she was a Nevi'ah. We just don't have all that much recorded of her prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in her case, unlike that of the Imahot, it's not by the Imahot we say true. We have much less Nevu'ah from Sarah and Rivka and perhaps Rachel and Leah, although they're all associated with prophecy, and we're even told the prophecy was greater than that of the Avot. But Miriam, it seems not to be the case. So maybe they're introduced in order of their magnitude, not necessarily the age. The age is the opposite. It's Miriam, Aharon, and Moshe.
Mm-hmm.
And the gifts that they brought us, they come out of order. It could be that it corresponds to the order in which they become necessary. They're introduced. Be'er Miriam, if right away they left Egypt, they were complaining about the availability of the water. So maybe it was like the first necessary miracle that came up. The Anan and then the Man, it must have been in quick succession because they all happened relatively quickly. Rashat B'Shalach, really.
Okay, so
but also
so
because
when the text does
the order in
something
which
like that, it
they
means
passed
something.
away is also backwards. First Miriam, then Aharon, then Moshe. So in reverse order of age.
So it does mean something when
Sorry,
it's not
and that's in the
logical
order that they were born. Miriam, Aharon, and Moshe, yes, because Aharon was 123, Moshe was 120, and Miriam passed away before the two of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting. No, I mean I could look up and see if the bench had a
I
skeleton.
was just confused because
It makes
it's
sense
not
that he
logical.
would. Yeah. No, that's right. I'm glad you put it out.
I mean, it's not logical, basic logic. My basic logic.
Logical by Kabbalistic, Talmudic, or Midrashic logic.
Okay.
So Miriam.
Actually, if you look at the explanation though,
Mhm.
it does. You can still claim that it says Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam because it goes in credit order of importance in a way.
Okay. Or magnitude.
And then it starts with Miriam because then it says, you will read it, but the Midrash says that because Miriam, when Miriam disappeared, is the honor of the other two that you. Actually, even better because technically the first that disappeared, the first to die is Miriam. So the first tzedakah.
She's also the oldest, but okay.
So the first tzedakah that you lose is the one from
From her.
and then that's how you and then how do you do when she leaves because in the merit of the other two, and then after her is Aaron and after her is Moshe. So there is a reason why he's explaining it that way.
Right.
Or
Okay.
just that.
Right. In other words, they filled the void to the extent they were able to until they themselves couldn't do it anymore. Could well be. I mean, how do we know that these brachot were associated with them? And it's funny, we learn this in a kind of negative way. What about Miriam? Miriam passed away there. She died there. We're told the nation had no water. So what does the death of Miriam happen to have to do with the availability of water? It's simple. Once she dies, there's no more water because the drinking water was thanks to her. Okay, so so Moshe and Aharon, it was thanks to their efforts, like the little bit more effort is exerted, and they're able to maintain drinking water for the nation, which is interesting because there's also this dispute about how they were supposed to make the water come from the boulder. In the end, They ended up getting punished, so their merit was also somewhat diminished. So, Meta Aharon nistalqu ananei hakavod. Once Aharon passed away, we no longer have this cloud to protect us as we're traveling on our way to Eretz Yisrael. How do we know? Shneimar v'yishma Kinani melech Arad. We're told literally that the Kenani living in the land of Arad, southern Israel, heard, and we're not told exactly what they heard. So, Ma Shemua Shama Shemet Aharon nistalqu ananei hakavod. So what did they hear? They heard that Aharon passed away, and therefore there's no more ananei kavod. We don't have a pasuk that says it, but tradition has it that this is the way it was. And they therefore thought that they must have had a permission, or that they were going to have a much more successful campaign should they wage war against us. Because otherwise, think about it, Aharon passes away and they attack us. Why? Because Aharon was so strong, because he was such a valiant soldier. Because apparently our protection was diminished as a result of his passing.
Because he's the Kohen Gadol.
Okay, he's the Kohen Gadol, so he'll be replaced by another Kohen Gadol. Maybe not someone of the same magnitude, but we'll have someone fulfilling the same tasks. So, because they attacked us, it must be that they understood something to do with our defense. Our ability to protect ourselves was somehow damaged. And this is what is meant by what's written. وَيُرْؤُوا كُلْ هَعِدَا كِي گَوَا أَهْرُونَ. And the entire nation saw that Aharon passed away. It didn't happen privately. He wasn't in a hospice. It wasn't like only non-Kohanim were present so as to avoid contamination. The entire nation saw that Aharon died. That's a very strange way to say it. Amar Rabbi Abahu, al tiqri وَيُرْؤُوا ela وَيِرْؤُوا. Don't say they saw, like re'iyah, lir'ot in Hebrew is to see, but rather وَيِرْؤُوا, like yir'ah, yareh, which means what?
Fear.
They feared that Aharon passed away. In other words, they knew that he passed away, now they're afraid. They weren't afraid before, they're afraid now. Why? Cause and effect. وَيِرْؤُوا. And how do we understand this? كِدَّرِيش رِش لَكِيش دَمَرْ رِش لَكِيش. This is as was taught, the word again, midrash, as was sought out, an explanation that was sought and found. بَرِش لَكِيش دَمَرْ رِش لَكِيش كِي مَشَمَش بَرَبَّعَ لَشَنُوت. This is what I really meant to get to. Ki mishamesh barabah lashonot. The word ki in Hebrew can mean one of four things. Right? It serves four purposes in Hebrew grammar. I, dilma, ela, deha. Okay? I in Aramaic means if, like im in Hebrew. Dilma means maybe. Ela means rather, meaning this as opposed to that. Or deha, because this. Basically because.
Which would be the same as ki, though, right? Ki means because usually. So the I ki shouldn't be the same thing.
When you say ki usually means this, you're ignoring the fact that he just told you it has four meanings to it. Like,
Right.
you're saying, usually the word ki means this, and therefore it means this. You're defining it in terms of itself.
Right.
So, in fact,
I thought it was in addition to the meaning of ki, you have other four, but actually not. It's part of the four.
it appears we can bring psukim to prove all. He doesn't, but we can bring psukim to prove all of them. But that's precisely the point. The word ki. Look at the pasuk again. V'chitim kruim kar la'amitecha o kanu miyad amitecha al tonu ish etahiu. In other words, the midrash is giving you a perfectly valid interpretation of the pasuk. It's just that you have to understand the meaning of the word ki in Hebrew. All of a sudden, it makes sense. You can learn it more than one way. So we have again ki mishmesh al ba'al lashonot, I dilma ela deha, if, maybe, rather, and because. So we tend to read ki in this kind of context as v'chitim krumim kar la'amitecha, if you're selling something, not that Andrea has a mitzvah to sell everything. If you're going to sell something to someone, sell it to a Jew. You're going to buy something, you buy it to. I don't have to kill all the animals in the forest, but if I'm going to eat any of them, I have to make sure they're properly slaughtered ahead of time. That's it. So it's a contingency type of situation. I'm not obligated to do anything, but if I do it, on the occasion, in the circumstance where I'm doing it, this is a mitzvah that's going to apply. That's one possible reading of it. Okay, dilma is like maybe. So sometimes you have the word ki in a kind of hypothetical situation, right? Like, maybe you'll do this, maybe you'll do that. You have, for example, ki rivun anashim yahdao. Two people have a fight. So it's not they have to, it's more like either if or should this happen. If someone, as a result of something, does something, it's not to say they have to, it's not to say that it might, it's like, should this course of action come up, or should someone opt for this particular item? An example of this would be ki as dilma, maybe ki tomar bilvavecha, right? You might say in your heart. It's not to say if you ever do this, you're guilty of something, violating something. There may be a situation that might come up in which something like this might happen. It's a kind of more hypothetical type of a situation. So there is if you do this, then you do this, and that's a pretty clear logical consequence, one of the other. There's maybe this might happen, it could be if this happened, but the word ki could still appear, and that would be the meaning of it. We have ela, rather, lo ki meraglim atem. Yosef tells to his brothers, right? So it's not no because you're spies. It's no, not like you say that you claim that you're innocent, you claim that you're naive. Rather, here is what the situation is. And then you have daha, because of this, therefore this. In other words, David, what you're saying is like the most common meaning of the word. He uses it last. It can mean this as well, but there are other possibilities. So we can read it on the simple level of pshat. If you purchase something, if you sell something, or if you purchase something, then here you shouldn't take advantage of anybody. And the Midrash, they're reading it much more specifically, as if to say, rather, instead of, don't just look to buy or sell things without considering other impacts this might have on other people, but rather, ki timkiru mimkar la'amitecha. Like that's the resolution of the phrase. If you're going to sell something, it should be like this, as opposed to the opposite. Or if you're going to buy something, it should be to one of your peers, which have to do this. Very fascinating note with which I'll let you guys go. So first of all, yes, it's true. The Midrash doesn't necessarily compel you to buy from a Jew under all circumstances at any price, no matter what. If all things are the same, you would say that's irresponsible. Why? Do non-Jews go to buy by Jews specifically, or some of them even avoid it? So maybe the responsible thing to do is to say, look, if it doesn't cost you anything, it doesn't make a big difference, I can hire anybody I want. Hire some Jewish, non-Jewish. Are people going out of their way to hire Jews, or is someone looking to help us? Every time there's an earthquake in Haiti or in Guatemala, all of a sudden the Jews, the Israelis, are the first ones to pitch a tent and to set up and give them medical assistance and everything. And when a bomb goes off in Israel, who comes to our help?
No one.
Everybody expects us to give to the rest of the world, and when the rest of the world sees
Well,
us.
it's Kiddush Hashem. It's not a bad thing.
Okay, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm also not saying that our priorities are in the right order. But whenever we need help, whenever we're being attacked, we unfortunately find very few people that are actually willing to step up and actually do it. But this is how things work. Tzedakah doesn't work this way. Before you give to someone outside of your family, if you know somebody in your family who needs the help, give it to them. If everybody took care of their families, nobody would need to cross the bridge or go over a river in order to get to tzedakah. Life works like this. You should care more about the people in the innermost circle. Look at your life as concentric circles. So the innermost one would be your close family. Make sure that your brothers and sisters are taken care of before you start donating money to institutions on the other side of the world. This concept of ki having different possibilities gave rise to a fascinating drasha on the part of Rav Tzadok Kohen Lublin on Megillat Esther. And I mentioned this once, where he describes the very undoing of Haman in a way that sounds fascinating. And really, it's so simple, the way he puts it, that it almost defies explanation. When Haman goes to tell Zeresh, Yimach Shemah, that Mordechai is bothering him, he doesn't understand why he has to deal with him. How come the rest of the Jews in the kingdom, everybody in the world bows down to him except for this one Jew? And Zeresh gives him a seemingly idiotic piece of advice. And she says to him, "Mizera Yehudi Mordechai asher achilot al nipol lefanav, lo tuchal lo ki nafol tipol lefanav." If Mordechai is descendant of the Judeans, here it's not Jews in the bigger Israelite sense, it's specifically from Shevet Yehuda. If Mordechai is from of Jewish descent, and you've already begun to fall before him, you're not going to be able to defeat him. Rather, you're just going to fall in front of him. Like, if you've already started to lose to him, these guys, they live on momentum. That's what it sounds like. If already you've started to lose your grip of control over him, it sounds like she's telling him you're a loser. Probably going to lose your control over the whole thing, and he's going to defeat you. You're just going to fall. Like, it is what it is, right? Which sounds like a very sweet, supportive thing that an American woman would say to her husband. In the eyes of Tzadok Rubin, he says, wait a second. Rav Tzadok points out, yes, it's true she's a Rasha. Doesn't say anywhere they didn't get along. I mean, even Rashaim find each other and they have matches. So he says, wait a second. How come everybody tends to understand this pasuk as her basically taking a cheap shot at her husband? You thought you had the entire world, but there's one Jew who doesn't want to bow down to you. And not only did he beat you at this, he's going to beat you, he's going to beat you in the big picture. This guy is going to be your undoing. There are millions of Jews in the empire, and there's one guy that you picked a fight with. If he's Jewish, I promise you're going to lose to him because there's no chance you're going to defeat him. Like, she's getting under his skin in order to humiliate him even more. Bad enough, he can't convince Mordechai to bow down in front of him. Clearly, his wife doesn't feel any such obligations and doesn't give him any honor or respect either. Which is funny because the beginning of the Megillah begins with Hashverosh executing Vashti, specifically for not honoring her husband. By the way, where does it say in the Torah you have to honor your husband? Never mind, I didn't say it. Out of sheer curiosity, again, the libertarian comes out. So, good thing Shlomo's not here. So Tzadok proposes the following. He says, "Im mizera haYehudim Mordechai asher achilotanu po lefanav." If Mordechai is from the descendants of the Judeans and the same one before whom you've begun to fall, lo tuchalo, you're not going to conquer him. You're not going to defeat him, at least not militarily. Ki nafolti po lefanav. Not ki because, meaning it's hopeless because you're going to fall. Ki here he says, mishamesh arba lashonot. Rather, what should you do? You should fall before him. What she's telling him is that the Jews, they have a very soft spot in their hearts. They're very merciful. And it's very difficult for them, even if it's the right thing to do, to stand up and defeat their enemies. And in fact, Zerah Shimach Shemah, the historian, points to him and says, listen, you're introduced to the Megillah as Haman HaAgagi. The whole story of Agag, when Shaul HaMelech had him, he had him by the throat, and he let him go. He felt compassion, he felt mercy. On who? On a guy who walked around cutting off heads. This was the Daesh, ISIS of his day. Every time they conquered somebody, they would cut off people's heads. And so Shmuel HaNavi, when he finally does catch him and he kills him, that's what he says. He reads them as like his Miranda rights. Just like your sword caused so many women to lose their husbands, their sons, and their fathers, so too your mother should experience the same thing. 53-year-old prophet cuts off his head and makes a joke out of Shaul HaMelech because he didn't have the strength to do it. Why? Because he was so compassionate, because he was so merciful. Shmuel is trying to teach him something. He says, you don't understand. Your mercy and your compassion, they're great, but they're out of place. They're going to contribute to the destruction of the world if you don't get your midot in order. Mechila, that I, the prophet, have to correct you, the king. But this is the way it works. You cannot conquer the entire world. You can't bring salvation with only one midah. Not with cruelty and not with compassion. You have to be cruel where it's necessary. You have to be compassionate where it's necessary. This is the world we live in. So Amnesty International and giving everyone a pardon is not going to make the world a better place. Shaul HaMelech doesn't get this. He has difficulty with this concept, and he struggles with it so much that Chazal said about him, it's peculiar about him that he was merciful over Agag, and then when Nov, the city of Kohanim, gave refuge to David HaMelech, he killed all of them. Kohanim you can kill, and Agag, the king of Amalek, you can't. Really, don't tell me you're not capable of swinging a sword. So he orders the destruction of the entire city. Why? Because they gave refuge to the guy that the same Shmuel HaNavi who appointed me as king now declared in the name of Hashem that my kingdom is over and that it should be given to him because he's better than me, and he couldn't accept it, he couldn't deal with it. So it's not that he has infinite compassion or infinite mercy, it's just that it comes out wrong. He's compassionate where he's supposed to be strict, and he's strict where he's supposed to be compassionate. And so Shmuel HaNavi is telling him, listen, you think you're a tzaddik for being so compassionate, your midot are backwards. That's what David HaMelech has better than you. He can fight this fight that you can't. Maybe you're better than in other things, but in this particular aspect of mercy and cruelty, he's got it straight. So Vashti refers back to this. She says to Haman, wait a second, why are you trying to beat him militarily? Who is he and who are you? He's a mosquito. You're second in command of the entire empire. And if you want to beat him, I have a better trick than this. Why play the bad guy? Take the high road. You fold. You get on your knees. You play to his ego. You make him feel good. He'll never have the strength to kill you. Even if he wants to, even though you and I both know you want to kill him, he'll never fight you back. The Jews are terrible at this. And basically, he says, of Tzadok, this is what Esther herself was praying for. The 3 days that she fasted before she goes to approach Hashverosh, he explains this is his own, call it a pshat, if you will, maybe a drash, maybe a sod. He explains that Esther was saying, I hope and I pray that when the time comes for me to put an end to this decree, that I'll have the strength to put an end to this psychopath's career, and not to have the same mercy on him that my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather unfortunately had on Agag. And so after Haman gets caught, once Hashverosh asks her, who's the person who decided he's going to attack your entire ethnicity, your whole your whole religion, she tells him, Haman hara hazeh. Haman hafu, and all of a sudden Haman, his face falls, he doesn't know what to do, he runs, he hides. Instead of running outside of the palace, he goes into a room. Haman nofer al hamita. That's the word that's used in the Megillah. So Hashverosh comes into the room to talk to her, and he sees that Haman is falling on the bed. Falling on the bed. Who falls on the bed? Fall off the bed. I do it all the time. Sometimes little kids, you have to be careful. So why would, speaking of the peculiarities of the words that are used, why would Haman be described as falling on the bed? And he says, why? It's evident. It's clear why. He's begging for his life. That's exactly what he's doing. We're told, literally, Tchanen. He comes to beg her for his life. And why does he come to beg her? Because he knows that she has this spiritual genetic defect, that even when he wanted to kill her and her entire nation, he didn't know that she was the queen, obviously. He appeals to this corrupt sense of compassion and mercy that always comes out at the wrong time and at the wrong place. And this is what Zeresh was telling him. And all this revolves around the word ki. Because ki can serve more than one purpose. We all read this. We've heard the Megillah how many years? I don't know, in my case 37. You hear the Megillah every year and you say, Zeresh is making fun of her husband, haha, you're a loser. Why? Because you have 10 million Jews are bound to you, one guy's not, and you don't know how to leave well enough alone. And she's saying, you already started to fall, you're going to continue to fall, you're going to go on a losing streak. And what she's actually telling him is something much more sophisticated. He's telling him, this is a much better idea than this. Don't do this, rather do this. You'll be much more successful. And he almost made it. He almost made it. In fact, Rav Tzadok explains that Esther herself had such difficulty with this that Hakadosh Baruch Hu miraculously sends a Hashverosh into the room to put an end to the deliberation. As if to say, she shouldn't even have to think about this. We'd rather not know what the outcome would have been. Just, the right thing happened at the right time, and Haman got what he deserved. It's not so clear that Esther would have the strength to do it a second. First time she identifies him, he's the wicked guy who wants to kill me and my entire nation. And then when he comes into the room to pray for his life, to beg her for his life, already Hashverosh puts an end to the story and saves us the trouble. But this is the power of the Midrash, understanding how these words can be read in more than one way. All of a sudden change the entire meaning of a pasuk, or change the entire, our lifestyle, or the expectations in terms of, maybe if I buy from someone I can favor a Jew, maybe the only thing I should be doing is buying and selling by Jews. Maybe we look at the bigger picture of the entire economy, sometimes make exceptions for certain things. We could even technically suspend a Mizwah midoraita in order to make life possible. We saw an example of this when it comes to the Heter. So the power of words and the ability to navigate them and make responsible decisions, not to be overlooked. But Hashem, we'll meet again next week. The week after next, I'm not going to be here. I have to be out of town.